Hey, it's Jason Creel. I want to talk to you a little bit about some information I recently came across, and I think it could be very helpful as you try to come up with a lawn care business plan. You know, there's all kind of things that are involved in having a lawn business other than mowing grass or treating weeds, or the other things that we most naturally think of when you got your marketing and all the other aspects of running a business. And so I have some information here that I print off. It's from Lawn and Landscape Magazine, the November 2014 edition. And what Lawn and Landscape did, they partnered with a research company, and they said they have a total of 602 lawn care owners who subscribe to their magazine who they surveyed, and to come up with these numbers from 2014. And what I think this will help us do, as lawn business owners, is to be able to understand what other companies are doing as far as how they spend their money, how much money they're making. And so then you can know, this is what an average lawn company is spending on, whatever the category is. So I wanted to point out some of the highlights. There was some other interesting information in the article. One, it was just really emphasizing the growth of the lawn business as an industry, which I was encouraged with. It did a lot of comparison between the mowing and the fertilizing side that I found interesting. But I wanted to, and some of that's divided up here where it'll have lawn maintenance being the mowing and lawn care being the spray and the fertilizing and weed control. So it makes some comparisons there. But anyway, and just as a word, I would go look up Lawn and Landscape Magazine. You can sign up for a free subscription. I did that. I know at least the digital format's free. I'm not sure if they actually mail you a hard copy for free or not. They may, but I'm just not sure. So, okay, so basically the article, it compares maintenance, like I said, the mowing and the lawn care, being the spray and fertilizing. So it has it broken down onto either side. So if you're into one or the other or both, you can, the information's broken down. So I'm going to point out some of the main categories on what an average business, remember they surveyed 602 of them, and what their margins are. So on materials, this is for the lawn maintenance, for mowing, it says the average company spends 7.5% of their gross income on materials, where in the fertilizing, it's 20.05%. So that's a big difference in the two. When you're spraying, obviously the cost of the chemicals makes that go way up, where in the mowing side, it's primarily labor. So the next category is gas and oil. I found this interesting. Gas is obviously cheaper lately, and that does help. But I think sometimes people put too much emphasis on gas. I mean, I hear people even talk about what kind of fuel economy their backpack blower gets and things, and I just think I wouldn't choose a backpack blower based on fuel economy. And this, for both lawn care, the fertilizer, and the maintenance, it's showing 3% basically is spent on gas and oil. That's the average. So, it is significant. 3% makes a difference, but even with gas dropping big time like it has lately, it's still not that big a difference on your bottom line. I mean, it is significant, and I'm grateful for it, but you see the point. So on labor, now here's a huge one. Obviously on the maintenance, your labor cost is the big cost, and that's one advantage, I think, of being in the fertilizing is you typically have one person in a truck, where on labor, you get your business up and running. I mean, on the maintenance side, you may have 3 or 4 guys, on a crew. And so, it's just an added expense, because it's not just what you pay them in salary. You got workman's comp and all the extra taxes and things that you have to pay. So for labor on the maintenance, it's showing average 35%, so 35% of what comes in goes out in labor. where on the fertilizer it's showing it's 25%. So, you know, that's a significant 10% difference there. Equipment on the maintenance side, it's showing an average is 11.5%. You know, obviously mowers and that sort of thing. And then on lawn care, it's 10% because you're still buying the, you know, the spray rigs, which are expensive, but you don't need quite as much equipment. There's not quite as much maintenance on the equipment. So you get down to advertising. It's showing on a mowing company, the average mowing company, it spends 1.25% on advertising. So let's just picture a company's grossing $100,000 just to have a round number. So they're spending a little over $1,000, you know, $1,250 a year average on advertising. You know, and there's plenty of companies out there, I bet when they interviewed a lot of them or they fill out the survey, a lot of people just say, well, I don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth, you know, and you know, that works for some people once you get established. That doesn't work starting off. So on the lawn care, the fertilizing, they're averaging 4% on advertising. So, you know, same situation, $100,000 company making $100,000 a year, they would spend $4,000 on advertising. I've seen that as I'm getting into lawn care. I mean, the fertilizing weed control companies seem to put a little bit more money out there. I mean, you've seen them. I'm getting things in the mail. They're putting things on the door. They got billboards up, you know, and the mowing companies do that to some degree, but not like the fertilizing companies do. So, and part of that is I think you got to have more customers in the fertilizing to fill up your schedule. You know, if you're only treating a yard 6 times or 8 times a year, where if you're mowing, you may mow it 20 times a year. So you need more customers to fill up that schedule. You know, so you know, it's got a whole list of things from utility bills to office supplies, cell phones. You know, all those are fairly minimal and are pretty much the same, no matter if you're fertilizing or the maintenance. But you get down to salaries, and this isn't talking about salaries for your actual crew. This is more office staff and you know, salespeople and that sort. It's showing 10 to 12% on both sides. So you know, and I got to think, if you're starting out and you're one person, obviously these are going to be a lot less because you probably don't have a salesperson you're paying, or you don't necessarily need an office staff if you're just starting out. So salaries, as far as your labor, as far as your crew out working, is showing on both sides 12 to 15%. And so you know, that's again, that I'm trying to figure out how it's differentiating that from your labor costs, but it may be a crew chief is what it's more referring to on the maintenance side, and you pay them an actual salary as opposed to labor is just, you know, seasonal labor. So so those are the primary categories. At the bottom it shows your net profit margins, and it shows in the maintenance that 10% would be good, 15% very good, 20% outstanding. Now again, I want you to remember that they're probably interviewing some of the larger companies. So if a larger company is grossing several $1 million, you know, then 20% adds up to a lot of money. And they're probably too taking out a salary for the owner. You know, so if you're a solo operation, or maybe you and one guy or one other, you know, you and 2 people, you can expect higher profit margins because you're not going to incur a lot of these other expenses. So don't be discouraged by that to think, you know, 20% is outstanding. If I gross $100,000 this year, I'm going to profit $20,000. I mean, that's not necessarily the case. So, but this is just the average. And like I said, the bigger your company grows, the more expenses you're going to incur, and probably the lower your profit margins are going to be. But you're grossing a lot more, so at the end of the day, your bottom line can still be more. On the lawn care, the fertilizing and weed control is showing the average net profit to be 27.5%. And so, according to this survey, it's showing that the fertilizer is more profitable. And I feel like that is the case. Like I said, I'm getting into fertilizing and feel like your profit margins are better. You got to have a lot more customers. And so just because the profit margins are better doesn't necessarily mean it's a better business to be in. I think there's advantages of both, and I'm still in both myself. So, but I do think when you have an established fertilizer company and an established maintenance company, the fertilizer can generate more money per employee. And that was another point of the article. It was showing, how much gross revenue can one employee generate, and it was showing like on the maintenance, I believe it was something around $50,000. You basically could expect each employee to add $50,000 in gross revenue, but for the lawn care, the fertilizer was showing more like $100,000 to $150,000. Because if you go, if you add one person on the crew, say you had a 2-man crew, you add one more. How much extra money can you generate mowing? Maybe you went from 2 people mowing 14 yards, and now you got 3 people. You can mow 20 yards, and so maybe your gross went from, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but $600 a day to $900 a day. So that person generated $300. Well, in the spraying, if one person could spray 20 properties, let's just say at $50 each, which I think is very doable, then that one person's generated $1,000 in a day. So that's kind of the difference. Like I said, it doesn't mean it's a better business. It just, I think the margins are a little better. So anyway, the point of this is they call it a budget builder, a P&L sheet, and it's saying take these numbers from all these people's 2014 actual numbers from surveys and help you create your own 2015 business plan. And so, like I said, if you're in maintenance and you want to know, well, what should I be spending on advertising each year? Well, the average company is spending 1.25%. So if you look last year and you made $100,000 gross, then if you want to be average this year, you spend $1,250 on your advertising. So then you can at least have a budgeted amount, and you can go up. You say, well, I want to advertise more. I want to spend 3%, But at least this is my advertising budget for the year, and that way when the Yellow Pages calls you, or when some Google person calls you, or all the different phone calls that I've been getting lately who say, well, we've got the best advertising for you. It's going to cost such and such amount of dollars. Well, I know what my advertising budget is for the year. Then I can say, well, you know what, I'm sure it's a great opportunity, but I've already, allocated my advertising to go to this area. So, I'm saying it can help you put together an average plan, and you can maybe check this halfway through the year. If you're keeping up with how much money you're making, how much you spend on labor, how much you spend on equipment, check it and say, you know what, I'm spending way too much on equipment, or my labor costs are way too high, or I'm doing great, So I just find this very helpful. Again, it's Lawn and Landscape Magazine. This is November 2014, but I'd go to their website, sign up, get a subscription. I was real impressed with the article. I want to share it with you. Thanks.